Letting go isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about finally accepting that holding on is hurting you more than losing him ever will. It's realizing that the chapter has ended, no matter how much your heart wanted a different ending. And yes, it's painful, but the moment you stop chasing what's gone, you start making space for what's meant to find you. Healing doesn't happen when he comes back, it happens when you finally stop waiting for him to. You can't heal from what you're still holding on to. That's the truth we all try to avoid when we're heartbroken. We tell ourselves we're moving on, but in quiet moments, we're still checking if he's seen our story. We replay every last conversation, hoping there's a hidden message we missed. We keep his number saved just in case. But healing doesn't live in just in case. It lives in it's over. As long as a part of you is still holding the door open for him, you're not giving yourself the chance to walk through the one that leads to peace. Letting go completely means facing the discomfort of absence. It means learning how to breathe again without his presence filling your space. At first, it will feel like a withdrawal, because love, even the kind that hurts us, becomes a habit. You were used to the rhythm of his messages, the comfort of his voice, the illusion of his closeness. Now you're retraining your heart to live without those doses of connection. And that's where most people stumble, because that craving for familiarity tricks you into thinking it's love. But it's not love, it's attachment. It's the mind holding onto what feels safe, even if it wasn't good for you. Healing requires courage, not the kind that screams strength from the rooftops, but the quiet kind that whispers, "I'll get through this." It's the courage to delete the texts you've been rereading for months, the courage to stop romanticizing what was never right, the courage to stop checking if he's moved on because his life no longer defines your worth. Every time you resist the urge to look back, you're telling yourself, "I choose me this time." And that choice, repeated over and over, becomes the foundation of your healing. You can't build peace on top of old chaos. If you keep replaying what happened, you keep reliving it. The mind can't heal from a wound it keeps reopening. So when the memories come, and they will, don't fight them, but don't feed them either. Acknowledge the thought, the pain, the sadness. Then remind yourself, this is part of the process. You're not failing at healing because you still miss him. Missing him is a reflection of your heart, not a reason to go back. Feel the ache, but don't confuse it with belonging. You can love someone deeply and still know they're not your peace. Healing isn't about forgetting him, it's about remembering yourself. The moment you stop trying to heal while holding on, you shift the focus from him to you. That's when the fog starts to clear. You'll begin to notice how much energy you were spending trying to fix something that was already broken. You'll realize how many moments of joy you put on pause, waiting for a message that never came, and slowly you'll start giving that energy back to your own life. That's what letting go really does. It doesn't erase him, it restores you. There will come a day when you wake up, and the first thought in your head isn't him. When you'll hear his name and it won't sting, that's not time healing you, that's you healing you. It's the reward of every moment you chose not to look back. Letting go is hard because it feels like losing something. But in truth, it's gaining everything you forgot you had. Your peace, your clarity, your freedom. The irony is, when you finally let him go completely, you realize you never needed him to feel whole. You just needed to stop clinging to the story where he was the only way you could be happy, because the ending isn't where you lose him, it's where you find yourself. What hurts the most after losing someone isn't always the reality of who they were. It's the fantasy of who you thought they could be. You fall in love with potential, with the idea of what the relationship could have become if only things had been different. You remember the moments that felt perfect and use them to convince yourself that the love was real, that it was worth holding onto. But what you're grieving isn't the truth of the connection, it's the version that existed in your imagination. And that's why it's so hard to let go, because when reality and fantasy blur, you start chasing a memory that never actually existed the way you think it did. When we're in love, our hearts often edit out the parts that hurt. We remember his smile, his touch, the times he said all the right things. We forget the silence, the excuses, the moments when we felt unseen. We cling to the best version of him because it's easier than accepting the truth that he wasn't able to love us the way we needed. Grieving the fantasy means admitting that the person we created in our mind is not the person we lost in reality, and that acceptance, as painful as it is, becomes the key to freedom. You see, fantasy offers comfort. It allows you to rewrite moments where you felt powerless. It gives you a sense of control, a belief that maybe, if you'd done something differently, things could have worked out. But love isn't a puzzle you failed to solve. It's an experience that reveals where you still need healing. He didn't leave because you weren't enough. He left because he wasn't meant to stay. And that truth only hurts until you realize his absence is making room for something far more aligned with who you're becoming. The hardest part about letting go of the fantasy is facing the emptiness it leaves behind. When you stop believing he was the one, you also have to face the question, then what was all this for? And the answer is growth. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every lesson he brought into your life was shaping you. He wasn't your forever, he was your mirror. He reflected your insecurities, your patterns, your capacity to love. He came into your life not to complete you, but to show you the parts of yourself you still needed to heal. Once you understand that, something shifts inside you. You stop trying to rewrite the past, and you start learning from it. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What did this teach me?" That shift takes you from victimhood to empowerment. You stop seeing him as the source of your pain and start seeing him as the catalyst for your transformation. Because every person who enters your life brings a lesson. Some teach you how to love, and others teach you how not to forget yourself while doing it. As you grieve the fantasy, you'll start to see him clearly, not through the filter of hope, but through the lens of truth. You'll remember the moments when you were the only one trying, the times you felt anxious, waiting for him to show up emotionally, and he didn't. You'll realize that your pain wasn't caused by losing him, but by continuing to hold on to an illusion. That's when you'll finally release him, not out of anger, but out of clarity, and then comes peace, not all at once, but slowly, in the quiet realization that you're not broken. You just believed in a story that wasn't yours to keep. The love you imagined was real because you felt it, but it doesn't mean he was the one meant to stay. He was the chapter that taught you how deeply you can love, how much you can endure, and how necessary it is to choose yourself. You'll stop romanticizing the pain and start respecting the lesson. Because healing isn't about erasing the fantasy, it's about seeing it for what it was, a beautiful illusion that brought you to the truth. He wasn't your forever, he was your awakening. We grow up believing closure comes from someone else, that one last conversation, one honest apology, one moment of understanding will finally bring peace. But waiting for someone who hurt you to heal you is like standing in the rain, expecting the storm to apologize for getting you wet. Closure doesn't come from them, it comes from you. It comes from the moment you stop needing their words to validate your pain, and instead, you start giving yourself the permission to move forward without their explanation. We often crave closure because it gives us a sense of control. It makes us believe that if we just understood why things ended, it would hurt less. But the truth is, even if he told you everything you wanted to hear, even if he gave you every answer, it still wouldn't undo the pain. Because closure isn't about understanding why someone hurt you. It's about deciding you won't let that hurt define you anymore. It's about taking your power back from the story that kept you stuck. There's a moment in every heartbreak when you realize you've been rehearsing the same scene in your mind, what you wish you'd said, what you wish he'd done differently. An ending, becoming hoping to find resentment version that feels fair, one that makes sense, but life doesn't always give you neat conclusions. Sometimes people leave without explanation. Sometimes they disappear without a goodbye. And sometimes they give you half-truths that only leave you more confused. If you keep waiting for them to come back and make it right, you keep your heart chained to the past. Closure then becomes something you choose, not something you wait for. Closure is when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start saying, "It happened and I'm still okay." It's when you accept that their silence is an answer, that their absence speaks louder than any apology ever could. It's when you understand that not everyone who breaks your heart is meant to fix it. Sometimes they're just meant to teach you how to do that yourself. The power in that realization is enormous, because once you stop waiting for them to explain, you free yourself from the cycle of needing validation from someone who was never capable of giving it. You find closure by forgiving what you'll never understand, not for them, but for you. Forgiveness doesn't mean you excuse their behavior. It means you refuse to let it keep poisoning your peace. You forgive to release the grip that pain has on your mind. You forgive because you deserve to be free, even if they never say sorry. And when you do, you stop looking backward. You stop analyzing the what-ifs. You stop trying to win a battle that's already over. That's when the real healing begins, not when they come back, but when you decide to stop waiting for them to. Closure also comes from truth, your truth, the truth that you showed up with love, the truth that you tried, the truth that you gave what you could. You stop blaming yourself for what didn't work and start honoring yourself for the way you loved. Because it's easy to be bitter. It's easy to say, "He didn't deserve me." But real closure comes when you can look back and say, "I deserved better, but I still choose peace." That's the kind of closure that lasts. Eventually, you realize you don't need their words anymore. You don't need to prove your side. You don't need to know what they're thinking or whether they regret it. You'll stop checking your phone, stop searching their name, stop hoping they'll come back and undo the damage. Because you'll understand that the power to close this chapter has always been yours. It's in your ability to say, "It happened, it hurt, and now it's time to let it go." That's what true closure is, not the moment they say sorry, but the moment you no longer need them to. Letting someone go completely doesn't mean erasing all the love you once felt. It doesn't mean pretending he never mattered or acting like you don't care. It means you finally understand that love doesn't require attachment. You can still wish him well, still feel gratitude for the moments that taught you something, and still walk away with peace in your heart. That's what detachment really is, loving without clinging. Because when you cling to something that's already gone, you keep yourself stuck in emotional quicksand. You sink deeper into the pain, mistaking suffering for loyalty. But real love, the healthy kind, doesn't ask you to stay where your soul no longer feels safe. Detaching with love is one of the hardest things to do because your heart wants to hold on, even when your mind knows it's time to let go. You want to believe he'll change, that things will somehow be different next time, that maybe love alone will be enough. But love isn't meant to be an anchor that drags you down. It's meant to be the wind that helps you rise. Holding on out of fear isn't love, it's avoidance. It's the fear of emptiness, the fear of being alone, the fear that if you let go, you'll lose something irreplaceable. But the truth is, you don't lose love by letting go, you simply stop letting it hurt you. There's a peace that comes when you finally release someone without resentment. When you can say, I loved him, but I love myself more now. That's not coldness, that's growth. It means you've reached a point where you no longer need to make him the villain to justify walking away. You see him as human, flawed, imperfect, maybe even unaware of the pain he caused, but still human. You can forgive him without needing to reconnect. You can care about him without wanting him back. That's the kind of maturity that turns heartbreak into wisdom. Bitterness might feel easier at first. It gives you something to hold on to, something to fuel the anger. But anger keeps you tied to him just as much as love does. Every time you replay the things he did wrong, every time you imagine what you'd say if you saw him again, you're still feeding the connection. Detachment is cutting that invisible cord. It's choosing your peace over your ego. It's saying, I don't need revenge. I don't need answers. I just need to be free. To detach with love, you have to reframe what letting go means. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's not losing love, it's choosing alignment. When something or someone no longer matches the energy of your growth, the universe nudges you to release it. And if you ignore that nudge, the pain only gets louder until you listen. Letting go isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you trust life to bring you what's meant for you. It's an act of faith, faith that peace is more valuable than control, that love doesn't have to come wrapped in pain, and that your heart will heal faster once it stops resisting what already is. You'll know you've detached with love when his name no longer triggers a storm inside you, when you can remember him without that ache in your chest, when you stop needing to explain the breakup to yourself or anyone else. You'll look back and realize you no longer want to fix what's broken because you're too busy building something better yourself. That's the power of letting go with love. It transforms what once hurt you into something that grows you. You stop chasing closure from him because you've already created it within you. And maybe one day you'll think of him and simply smile, not because you want him back, but because you finally understand what that connection taught you. He was never meant to be your forever. He was the lesson that taught you how to love without losing yourself. And now, instead of carrying him in your pain, you carry him in your peace. That's not the end of love. That's love evolved. When you let someone go, it creates a space, a quiet, aching emptiness that feels unbearable at first. You're so used to their presence that the silence feels foreign. You reach for your phone instinctively, only to remember there's no message waiting. You wake up and feel that hollow space where there used to be, and your mind immediately tries to fill it with distractions, with memories, with the urge to reach out one more time. But that space isn't meant to be filled by another person. It's meant to be filled by you. It's your space to heal, to rebuild, to remember who you were before the relationship took so much of you. When someone leaves, they don't just take their things, they take the version of you that existed around them. You start to wonder who you are without the routine of them, without the calls, the plans, the emotional highs and lows. You lose the mirror that reflected you through their eyes. That's why letting go feels like losing yourself. Because in some ways you built so much of your world around them that when they disappear, the structure collapses. But here's the beautiful truth, that space isn't destruction. It's reconstruction. It's the foundation for who you're becoming next. Filling that space with yourself means doing the work you avoided when love was your distraction. It means sitting with your emotions, the loneliness, the anger, the confusion, instead of running from them. It's about rediscovering what actually makes you feel alive, not what kept you from feeling empty. You start doing things that connect you to yourself again, walking alone, journaling your thoughts, trying something new just because it excites you. Every small act of self care, every boundary you honor, every night you cry and still wake up stronger, that's you pouring yourself back into the space he left behind. There's a moment in healing where you realize the silence isn't as loud anymore. You start to enjoy your own company again. You notice that your laughter sounds different, freer, lighter. You stop waiting for his name to appear on your screen. You stop replaying the what-ifs. You stop comparing everyone to him because you've stopped needing him as the measure of love. That's when you know you've started filling the void with something deeper, your own presence. Because when you love yourself enough, you stop needing someone else to complete you. You become whole again, but in a stronger way, not the way you were before him, but wiser, calmer, more grounded. It's natural to want to fill the emptiness quickly, to distract yourself, to move on fast, to prove you're fine. But healing doesn't respond to speed, it responds to honesty. You can't skip the part where it hurts. You can't replace someone without first replacing what they took from you emotionally. If you rush into another connection without refilling your own energy, you end up repeating the same wounds in a different story. So instead, allow the space to exist. It's not your enemy, it's your sanctuary. It's where you grow roots again. Filling the space he left with yourself also means reclaiming your power. When you stop outsourcing your happiness to someone else, you stop giving them the ability to destroy it. You begin to see that the love you gave so freely wasn't wasted. It just needs to be redirected inward. You start talking to yourself with more kindness. You start setting boundaries not out of fear, but out of self-respect. You start realizing that your worth was never dependent on someone staying. It's found in the way you choose yourself every time life asks you to. Eventually, the space he left becomes sacred. It becomes the part of you that no longer aches for what was, but feels grateful for what it created: peace, clarity, self-trust. That space that once felt like loss becomes your greatest gain, because it reminded you that love is not about holding onto someone else, it's about holding onto yourself. You stop asking who will fill the emptiness and start realizing you already have. You are the love you were waiting for. There comes a point in healing where you realize closure isn't something another person can give you. You could get every apology, every explanation, every text that finally admits they were wrong, and still, it wouldn't change what happened. Closure isn't found in the words they say, it's found in what you decide to believe moving forward. It's found in your ability to stop searching for reasons and start accepting the reality. He may never understand how deeply he hurt you. He may never see the version of love you were trying to offer, and that's okay, because closure isn't about him making it right. It's about you choosing peace, even when you didn't get the ending you wanted. We often believe that to move on, we need a neat ending. We want to understand why he left, why he changed, why the same person who once made us feel safe suddenly made us question everything. But sometimes those answers don't exist, at least, not in a way that would make sense. People act from their own wounds, their fears, their immaturity. They love the best they can, even when their best still hurts us. And when you spend your energy trying to decode every detail, you stay emotionally tied to him. You stay in the story instead of stepping into the lesson. Closure isn't about getting him to explain himself. It's about learning to stop needing him to. When you choose your own closure, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for validation and give it to yourself. You start saying, "It didn't end the way I hoped, but it taught me what I needed." You stop letting confusion dictate your peace. You stop chasing a finish line that doesn't exist. You realize that closure is something you create through acceptance, through understanding, through self-respect. It's when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That's where healing begins. It's hard to let go of something that feels unfinished, There's a craving in your heart to tie it all together, to make sense of it, to find some moral at the end of the story. But not every story has a clean ending. Some just stop mid-sentence, and you have to be brave enough to walk away without knowing the rest. That's what maturity looks like. It's realizing that the lack of closure is the closure, that the silence you got instead of answers is the answer. When someone shows you, through distance or indifference, that they're not willing to meet you where you are, that's all you need to know. Creating your own closure means forgiving yourself too. Forgiving yourself for the times you stayed too long, loved too hard, ignored the red flags, or believed words that didn't match actions. It's not about blaming yourself, it's about freeing yourself. You can't rewrite the past, but you can stop punishing yourself for it. You can acknowledge that you were doing your best with the love and awareness you had at that time. That version of you deserves compassion, not judgment. Closure is found in saying, I may not have gotten the ending I wanted, but I'm proud of how I loved. I'm proud of how I'm healing. When you give yourself closure, you stop looking backward for healing and start finding it within. You stop checking if he's thinking about you, if he misses you, if he regrets losing you. You realize that none of those answers would change your reality. You start focusing on what actually matters: your peace, your energy, your growth. You decide that no story, no person, no heartbreak gets to define your worth, because your healing isn't dependent on his remorse. It's dependent on your decision to move forward anyway. That's the beauty of choosing your own closure. You no longer need anyone else to make you feel whole. You stop waiting for an ending that validates your pain and start writing your own. You stop needing him to acknowledge your value because you finally see it for yourself. And in that moment, you're free, not because he came back to explain, but because you stopped needing him to. You closed the door gently, with grace and strength, and decided that your peace is worth more than his explanation. That's the moment you don't just let him go, you finally let yourself go too. Letting him go completely isn't about forgetting him, it's about remembering yourself. It's choosing peace over chaos, growth over pain, and freedom over familiarity. Healing begins the moment you stop waiting for him to come back and start showing up for yourself. You don't need his apology, his attention, or his closure to move on. All you need is the courage to say, this story ends here, and my new one begins with me. Because when you finally release what was never meant to stay, you create space for everything that's meant to find you.